always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, live from Detroit. And kicking off another brand new day here on the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom, which always makes me ask, who do you want in your foxhole? Okay, we're burning daylight. We need to get rolling through this big day. Number one, I was wrong. I was wrong. I didn't think there was any chance at all that Jimmy Kimmel would return to host his poorly performing late night show, but ABC says they're rolling the dice, putting him back out tonight. Well, good luck. He's not on the air yet. Maybe I'm not wrong. We'll find out. Number two, where is the surge in autism coming from? The White House made a major announcement about where the investigation is leading now, with the idea that they may be able to improve the future. We'll see. And number three, I think I might have witnessed over the weekend what might be the definable turning point for America when I attended the memorial service for Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point, at the State Farm Stadium in Phoenix. And let me tell you something, it was packed to the roof. I want to share with you some of the energy that filled that room. It was remarkable. 100,000 people, maybe 200,000, depending on who you ask, came to Phoenix to celebrate the life of Charlie Kirk and all he stood for, and what was one of the largest memorial services for a private citizen than I can ever remember, ever. In fact, I can't think of anything that rivals it. Nothing. And it was beautiful. Tens of thousands of people worshiping God, remembering what it feels like to be united in a love for what he's given us, and committing to fight for the values that Charlie did while on this earth for too short of a time. It was a perfect snapshot into what the best of conservatism in America has to offer, a movement rooted in truth, a movement that can react to murder with grief, yes, with anger, yes, but also with truth, hope, and most importantly, forgiveness. 5 years ago, a repeat felon died from a fentanyl overdose in a scuffle with police. The left set fire to almost every major city across the nation. Just about 2 weeks ago now, a Christian conservative giant was martyred in cold blood by a hateful leftist radical. And what are we seeing in response? A revival characterized by worship and faith. The difference could not be more clear. Especially in this moment, the pinnacle of the entire service, a revolutionary embrace of the Christian faith by Charlie's widow, Erica Kirk. It's worth hearing again. Listen.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life. That young man, on the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
First, Erica's display of forgiveness. Even when you can see so clearly that she's wrestling with a tsunami of emotions that surround her decision to publicly forgive the monster who took her husband's life. Powerful moment to stand there and watch. We were very close to her when she did that. Something that only the grace of God can accomplish, in my estimation. And second, one of the longest standing ovations I've ever been a part of. Tens of thousands of Americans acknowledging that this is the way This is commendable. Not the burning down of cities, not the slashing of tires and fist fighting those we disagree with, but this. An individual choosing to forgive another individual for such a heinous and destructive crime. Our nation was built on Christian principles. Yes, it was. This is how we will survive. That shooter thought he would open the floodgates to the unthinkable and break our country. He wanted to stop a movement, but his actions have instead unshackled millions of Americans who are unwilling to stay quiet and in the shadows any longer. No one person will ever be able to replace Charlie, but hundreds of thousands are inspired now to follow in his footsteps, maybe millions. This is why the left is so dead set on distorting our message, twisting our words, lying about who we are, because our message is actually one of peace, love, equality of opportunity, true tolerance, true justice, and true liberty. All the things they pretend to be, but fail at miserably. It's a message that, when fairly considered, resonates deeply with any principled American. The left dreads this, knowing their support would crumble if our message were honestly presented. To counter it, they call us Nazis, fascists, bigots, racists. I'm not a fascist. I'm a father. I'm not a Nazi. I'm a neighbor. I'm not a bigot. I'm a brother. And I'm not a racist. I'm an American who wants what's best for my fellow Americans, regardless of skin color or anything else. Listen to me. If they don't lie about us, they'd lose everything. They have to lie about us, which is why it's more important than ever to make your voice heard, to make it abundantly clear what you stand for, to challenge the false titles you've been given. J.D. Vance knocked it out of the park with his remarks on Sunday. Listen, please.
Charlie suffered a terrible fate, my friends. We all know it. We all saw it. But think, it is not the worst fate. It is better to face a gunman than to live your life afraid to speak the truth. It is better to be persecuted for your faith than to deny the kingship of Christ. It is better to die a young man in this world than to sell your soul for an easy life with no purpose, no risk, no love, and no truth.
Now is not the time to bury your head in the sand, to hunker down and hide. It's time to embrace your purpose. Time to let your light shine. You may feel that the world is darker right now, especially when we see the most deranged on the left literally celebrating this innocent man's death. This is when our light can shine the brightest, destroy the darkness. Hold your head up high, my friends. Be proud. We've got more to talk about. It was the most hopeful event I've ever been to when the topic was so heartbreaking. The range of emotion in the room on Sunday, wow, it was remarkable. Ivy will tell us more about when she joins us today, in just a little while, in fact. Glad to be back on the chair. It's the Steve Gruber Show. By the way, one of the biggest things that happened, maybe, Elon Musk arriving at the funeral. Elon Musk, he's just different. I think we'll just leave it there. He's different. He's sometimes awkward in public, but he came, and everybody heard about him shaking hands and sitting with Donald Trump for a few minutes. It's nice. But more importantly is this, Elon Musk gets it. He understands exactly what we're dealing with here. Here are his comments. Listen.
Why was he killed?
He was killed because his words made a difference. Because he was showing people the light. And he was killed by the dark.
Thank you, sir.
Showing people the light and killed by the dark. Not killed. Elon has had his fair share of disagreements with many on the conservative side, but he recognizes that none of those disagreements are more important right now than being united in the fight against darkness. Benny Johnson saw that on display over the weekend as well. Here's what he said.
Charlie was constantly doing that, constantly bridging gaps, constantly fusing together, because he realized that if we don't hang together, we will surely hang separately, which is exactly what Elon Musk told me. And he said, this is why I was proud to sit with my president. That's what he called Trump, my president today. He accepted Trump's invitation to go up there, and the majority of the event Elon Musk sent sitting there with Donald Trump, chewing it up. Everyone can see here's the photos of Elon embracing Erica, and then there are photos of Elon with Trump, and they seem to be having a great time. Dana White also there. What not only was the size and scope of this and the peacefulness of it a profound eulogy for Charlie and his memory, but the cornerstone of it all, to unite the world's most powerful, richest private civilian with the world's most powerful public figure, Donald Trump. Charlie said, in this chair right here, he hoped that it happened. There's a clip that went viral yesterday. Charlie saying, I pray that Elon Musk and Donald Trump reconcile. And they did so at Charlie's funeral in Charlie's memory.
Yeah, exactly right. Benny sitting, of course, in Charlie's studio there. This is Charlie's legacy. There are 325 million people in America. No, they're not going to agree on everything, maybe not much at all. But when it's light versus dark, when it's light versus darkness, good versus evil, and yes, even people who don't believe in God know that there's evil. Well, we can come together to fight the darkness. Stephen Miller went off on this during the memorial No Holds Barred, issuing a clear battle cry to conservatives and all Americans. Here's what he said.
Defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing.
Yeah, you might notice this is a different tone, sharply different than Erica Kirk, but both are necessary for the health of a successful society. It is the Christian's job to forgive. A society made up of citizens with those values is one that will thrive, but it is the government's job to punish evil. Without that, you have a society where evil runs rampant. Both are necessary. This is why fighting for the right thing is important both in your private life and in the public sector. No one understood that more than Charlie, and I believe that now. More people than ever before understand that as well. These have been some very heavy weeks, but I believe good is coming out of it. And I'll leave you with this from Charlie himself in a conversation recorded just hours before he was assassinated. Listen.
One of my favorite verses, though, is Romans 8:28, which it says that God works all things for good for those who love him. It's a very freeing and liberating verse for those of us that are Christians, because we believe that when things can be really bad, God is working it for his good, his perfect and pleasing will, which is a very, very hard teaching when you come across business closures or staff layoffs. But it's very liberating that God is working all things towards an ultimate good. So I love that, and it kind of is very freeing that I don't have to be in charge of everything. And there is a God, and I am not him, and I surrender to his will.
And I surrender to his will. May we all be part of that good work and work harder and do better than ever. Work harder. Do better. That's what was on his wrist every day. For the causes that are worth fighting for. Remember, we have a country to save. We have a country to save. More on this. Ivy's going to join me in a few minutes. We'll have some more reflections on our time in Phoenix. What if I told you that parasites could be living inside you right now, causing tumors, neurological problems, without you ever realizing they were the culprit? And we know most doctors aren't trained to look at root cause issues. Dr. Peter McCullough, one of America's leading medical experts, recently highlighted a shocking case in the New England Journal of Medicine where a man went blind in one eye from a parasitic worm. We're learning across areas of medical expertise. Parasites are a real and growing threat. These are not third world issues. The CDC has even admitted that millions of Americans suffer from parasitic infections that often go undetected until they cause cancer, seizures, or even heart failure. That's why Dr. Peter McCullough says this makes the case to do a medical-grade parasite cleanse at least once a year. The wellness company's ivermectin mebendazole parasite cleanse is doctor-prescribed, USA compounded. It is the gold standard combination designed to help the body eliminate all types of parasites. One cycle is only 21 days, but you get a 90-day supply. The process, fully digital. Fill out a personal intake form. A doctor reviews and your cleanse arrives in a week. Be proactive with the wellness company's parasite cleanse. This is the gold standard. Go to twc.health/Gruber. You'll save $60 and get free shipping. twc.health/Gruber. $60 off, free shipping. All right, here's something. Let me just put this out here because I found this to be a shocking fact that is really important. I've confirmed it, though. Anybody, what is the number one cause of liver failure in America? Acute liver failure, ALF, of adults in the United States, accounting for approximately 40 to 50%, maybe half of all cases based on data from the Acute Liver Failure Study Group. Anybody? Anybody. What's the number one cause of acute liver failure in America? Tylenol. Didn't tell you that, did they? Tylenol. Yeah. In a comprehensive analysis of over 1,000 ALF cases collected by the study from 1998 through 2007, acetaminophen toxicity was responsible for 46% of cases, far outpacing other causes like indeterminate etiology, idiosyncratic drug reactions, hepatitis B, autoimmune hepatitis, all of it. 46% of acute liver failure. I think I'll be going to my medicine cabinet and throwing the Tylenol away. Why have they never told us this? You know, and I saw this in a post. When you take acetaminophen, part of it is converted into a toxic byproduct called MAPQI, N-acetyl P-benzoquinone imine. Your body can only clear that toxin with your body's master antioxidant. In pregnancy, the supply is already lower. So when people scoff at the idea that Tylenol could be part of the baseline problem for autism or ADHD, don't be so quick to dismiss. Don't be so quick to dismiss. Tylenol, the number one cause of acute liver failure. Did you know that? What have you learned here today? There'll be a test later. There should be. Honestly, this is important stuff, really important stuff. Anyhow, I'm going to continue to read and study after the president's announcement yesterday. This is important. You know, there's only so much I can read today, but I'm doing my best. Work harder, do better. That's what Charlie had on his wrist. I think that's a great saying. Work harder, do better. Oh, and praise God. I'll be back. Welcome back to the program. One of the things we talk about here a lot lately is cryptocurrency. And the reason is it's becoming more mainstream every single day. It's not such a mystery anymore. It's being purchased by mainstream companies, by governments, including the U.S. government, Arizona, North Carolina, and me. I own cryptocurrency. Why wouldn't I? Joining me is Jonathan Rose. He's the CEO of Block Trust IRA. And Jonathan, so good to have you back on the program.
Thank you for having me back on, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
And when I say mainstream, we were just talking here a moment ago, pharmaceutical companies, Harvard, the Trump Organization, all of these mainstream entities are gobbling up crypto. Why is that?
That's a great question, because when you see the Harvard Endowment Fund, $218 million purchase of Bitcoin, President Trump's social media company, $2 billion. The list goes on and on. And I think what people are beginning to realize that cryptocurrency, particularly Bitcoin, is the future of money. And you can look at this list and even see biotech companies, publicly traded companies on the stock exchange, buying Bitcoin and creating their own US Treasury like President Trump did for our nation. And then the question becomes, well, why would a biotech company be buying Bitcoin? And the simple answer to that is because of the shareholders. And when you look at these publicly traded companies and they have surplus of cash, instead of parking that cash now in bonds, they're actually purchasing Bitcoin, because over the past 10 years, Bitcoin has averaged 29+% a year. So you could have a publicly traded company that maybe has a losing year, but they're going to offset those losses by the fact they have a US Treasury for themselves of Bitcoin that's actually growing in value. So people are beginning to realize that Bitcoin and other assets are here to stay. The digital frontier is here. And it's a very exciting time to be investing in assets like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin.
It is. Look, I was at a conference here, I don't know, 6 months ago in Salt Lake. And one of the speakers came out talking about investments and so forth and said, Bitcoin is the greatest appreciating asset in world history. And I sat there for a second and I thought to myself, wow, it never had occurred to me till I heard that man say that. And that man is worth $100 million or more, a very successful individual. The greatest appreciating asset in world history is cryptocurrency. That's remarkable to me, Jonathan.
It really is. People don't even realize this, that right now as we speak, Bitcoin is currently the 5th largest asset in the world. So Bitcoin has overgrown Google, it's overtaken Amazon, and the only kind of 3 spots left, I believe, is Nvidia, Microsoft, and the actual gold market in terms of market cap. So give it, I say, 6 to 7 years, Bitcoin will become the largest asset globally worldwide. And when you talk about global and you look at global adoption, what's even crazy to think about is that we only have an 11% global adoption rate currently for Bitcoin. So that's the equivalent of the birth of the internet as we know it. So we are still in early stages for crypto and for assets like Bitcoin. We are in the infancy, so it's not too late for people to participate. And if anything, I would say this is an integral part now of a balanced portfolio, because what we're witnessing is one of the biggest wealth transfers in history that's currently underway.
Yeah, crypto is still in its infancy. Now, your company, at Block Trust IRA, you focus on 2 of the coins. You focus on Bitcoin and Ethereum, if not mistaken. Why did you choose those 2? Bitcoin, obviously, we've talked about, it's a tremendous asset. Ethereum, why these 2?
Well, actually, on our platform, you can actually purchase 60 different cryptocurrencies. So we don't just alienate anyone. But Bitcoin and Ethereum, Bitcoin's the digital gold. It's kind of the flagship. Ethereum is kind of like the gold and the silver. Right. And when you look at the market cap of these size of these tokens, they're just absolutely tremendous. So when people invest in assets like Bitcoin, they normally do what we call a buy and hold strategy. Now, that may work wonders with an asset like precious metals. You throw it in the safe and you forget about it. But with an asset like Bitcoin, because there's no opening bell or closing bell, it's traded 24/7, 365, which means if you're asleep, something could happen. It could affect the markets drastically, positively or negatively. And if it goes down, you know, it's a wild ride in cryptocurrency, and particularly assets like Bitcoin, where we've seen it drop over 50% 8 times during its history. Now, I think these volatility drops are going to become less and less with full adoption and less coins and tokens on the market. Sure. But my point being is, if you're in a buy and hold strategy in crypto, in my personal opinion and what I've seen, you're going to lose the race. Not to say it's bad, but there's better ways to do this. So we were voted the #1 trading strategy by Bitcoin Magazine for assets such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. And what we're able to do is use very sophisticated AI to look at this volatility. We're looking at on-chain metrics, who's buying, who's selling. We're looking at price, technical analysis. We're looking at macroeconomics, interest rates. So there's very different verticals that we're looking at that AI, through very sophisticated methods, is giving us the right signals of when to be buying and then when to be moving that position into cash, let the volatility fly through us, and when that subsides, buy back in. And that actually does two things for investors. Number one, it mitigates risk, mitigates that drawdown. So you're not just on the buy and hold. And secondly, you're able to purchase back in at a lower price, which is my favorite thing, because now you're compounding. So the old way to do it is a buy and hold strategy. The new way to invest in crypto is through what we call managed accounts, and that's only offered exclusively through Block Trust IRA.
I think this is remarkable, honestly. The way that we're purchasing these things, the way that we're controlling these things. It's like a science fiction movie, except that when it's applied properly, Jonathan, people can profit remarkably because it does trade 24/7. We were talking about this just before you came on. I mean, I'll be up in the middle of the night checking on something. Oh, where's Bitcoin at right now? You check because it's trading around the world 24 hours a day. You don't have to wait for the market to open or close. It's happening 24/7. And your Animus AI, like you said, #1 according to Bitcoin Magazine, because it uses AI to buy and sell cryptocurrency. I mean, that just sounds like a sci-fi movie, but it works for everybody. You don't have to be someone, one of these elites. You can be an ordinary person, a truck driver, a teacher. You can be retired. All of these things fit now, don't they?
They really do, because the amazing thing about crypto, and President Trump is pushing this too, is you can put IRAs into cryptocurrencies. You can roll them over tax-free and penalty-free. And when people invest in crypto, people aren't traders. They don't want to watch the market 24/7, but they want some safeguards in place. They want some safety rails in place to make sure that if you're in a volatile market, that you can be prepared for any dips that are out there and then take advantage of those dips where they actually become profit opportunities. And when you look at crypto and you look at the world today, you know, data is the new oil. Everything is data, data, data. So there's so much data out there, especially because crypto is now a global market. As I mentioned, no opening bell or closing bell. You want to be able to take this data to the nanosecond and make split decisions before the retail market reacts. And we do this very successfully. And that's how we beat the buy and hold strategy, the old-fashioned way.
And I love it. That's why I endorse it. I love it. It's the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine, Block Trust IRA. Here's what I'm going to offer you guys right now. You go to stevegrubercrypto.com. You can get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto. Jonathan Rose, he has created this system. He's helped to perfect it, and we're on our way to a new place where ordinary folks like me, because I do now own crypto, and we're on our way. Jonathan Rose, I got to leave it right there. Thank you for the education, as always.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciated. Again, guys, go to stevegrubercrypto.com. If you're not in crypto, you need to be. The biggest appreciating asset in world history is Bitcoin. You need to be part of it. stevegrubercrypto.com. Find out more. Get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto. I'll be right back. All right, we're glad to be back. Ivy and I flew back early out of Phoenix. We were offered an 11 p.m. flight out of Phoenix. The place was packed. Trying to get out of there with an Uber was insanity after the event. Ivy's here with me, of course, bright and early. Ivy, nice to see you.
Good morning, Steve.
We ended up just walking and walking. We finally said, "There's a restaurant. We're just going to go park in there." Of course, it was packed to the rafters as well. What an event!
Wasn't it an incredible thing to be part of, Steve?
It really was.
I mean, for me, you could feel the presence of God in that room. You could feel viscerally the Spirit moving within, at least within me. I'm thinking that you felt the same.
I did.
But there were so many moments during that event that were incredible to me. Larry Yarn, it was probably other than Erica, Kirk was one of my favorite speakers. When he was talking about, telling Charlie what he needed to do to really start to answer the questions that he couldn't answer in regards to the founding of this country and of the importance of Christianity in the founding of America. And he says this: start with the Bible, read the classics, study the founding of America. In those places, you'll find that there's a ladder that reaches up towards God. And at the bottom of it are the ordinary good things that are around us everywhere. If we can call them by their names, they have being, and the beings of the good things are the figments of God. You will find that article in Aristotle. You will find it in the Bible. You will find it in Madison and Jefferson. And I take that and I say, oftentimes you and I find ourselves on social media, we're researching, we're trying to find news, we're trying to find out what's going on. And it is an incredible inundation of negativity, of, slander, of
if I may,
the left, constant barrage of slander by leftist politicians, by the legacy media. But what were you going to say?
I just saw several posts referring to Larry Yarn as a guy promoting white nationalism and how dangerous it is, and promoting Aristotle. Really? Promoting Aristotle is not dangerous in America. These people have lost whatever brain function they had.
And, to some degree, I have challenged myself and you in that you don't really actually know who's on the other side of that name. Some profiles are obvious people. But what if they're not
bots.
People? What if they're bots? What if they're, Chinese, Russian,
which is true,
people who are just trying to create chaos?
One of the things going on right now in this country is a flood of bots coming from God only knows where. Great points you make. To do and sow division. But one of these people I just looked at and listened to, it was a guest on MSNBC, of course, making the point that Larry Yarn is a white nationalist promoting the ideas of Christianity and Aristotle in America. Well, gee, where did America come from? What a horrible thing to do, right? I mean, come on.
Right. Well, I can say that one of the most powerful things, first of all, it was one of the most powerful things I had ever been part of, are leaders in America, the most powerful people in the world, and influencers. I've never been in a place where you had so many people proclaiming the love and goodness of Jesus, and that was incredible. And especially Erica Kirk, who, she...
Could you do it?
I certainly hope and pray that I never have to. But she had the grief of the wounded and the confidence of a lioness. She was vulnerable and fierce. She was broken and brave. And you could hear a pin drop as she began, and I knew where she was going with, Jesus asks us to forgive. And the hardest thing that she probably will ever have to utter, those words of forgiveness. It was an incredible moment to be part of. The power of forgiveness. You could and everyone stood and applauded. It wasn't that they cheered, they applauded because they knew how powerful that moment was. Yeah. How much she just had to reach into her to ask God for help in that moment. That I know this is what you want me to do. I know this is what Charlie would want me to do. But gosh, how hard, how difficult. And she did it anyway. She stood an example. And, I don't think any of us, maybe you, but if we think about, the Jesus Revolution, in when 1971, when the cover of Time magazine, I think maybe that time is now, when there is just going to be this this flooding back to the church. And is it a return to the Christian values of our founding? I certainly hope so. What do you think?
It felt like a revival. Inside that room, you saw people crying. You saw people praying.
Yeah.
You saw people embracing. You saw people laughing.
Mm-hmm.
It was the entire range of emotion.
Yeah.
Genuine emotion. And yeah, genuine spirit in that room. I think you're exactly right. It was a privilege to be there.
I agree. And, I have some words of John Adams, who wrote during our founding, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And, I think we've gotten so far away from that founding to some degree that, this governance doesn't work when you're not really following Jesus and understanding why that's so important.
So I'll go back to the strange comments of the woman on MSNBC. Oh, they want us to go back to the founding principles of this country. Yeah, that's what we want. We want to return to the founding principles of this country. They find it so foreign and bizarre because they're so far detached from where we should be. Anyhow, got to leave it there. Ivy, early appearance today. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Love you.
All right. It was a privilege to be there. True honor and a true privilege to see all of that and the people that were there, to see them participate. I'm glad we were there. I'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so I mean, here's the strange things that I see. And Scott Jennings, y'all know who Scott Jennings is, of course. He's the guy that fillets liberals and leftists and progressives for sport on CNN. Over there on Chicken Noodle News, he just destroys them one after another after another. He was threatened here yesterday, apparently, by Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann write to Scott Jennings in Kentucky, "You're next, MFer," and he said it all. But keep mugging on to the camera. Scott Jennings asked the FBI to investigate Keith Olbermann for this behavior. It's made it to the New York Post. It's a national story now. Keith Olbermann, the firebrand for the leftist movement, the firebrand for the progressives, threatening Scott Jennings. Nice work, Keith. Maybe we can finally get you the help you need. We can finally get you into the program and get you the help you need, because clearly you're an unwell individual. A very unwell individual. Yeah. Anyhow, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? I always ask you to support the people that support this program, including Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile doing things for people all over this country when there's a disaster, like the floods in Texas or the hurricane in western North Carolina. Patriot Mobile shows up with chainsaws and water and food and hope. Patriot Mobile is not just a telephone company. They're good friends of mine, and they're good friends of America. So when I say join Patriot Mobile, I say realize there are a lot of choices when it comes to who you choose for your phone service, but there are very few that stand up for America. PatriotMobile.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to get your first month for free. Join us here. Let's have a conversation, right? About being with the right people. It's all U.S.-based support team. It's Patriot Mobile, an American company. Call 972-PATRIOT. Or like I said, go to patriotmobile.com/Gruber. Get on board with us, would you please? We'll be right back. always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Well, it certainly is. Thank you for being here, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. That's what we do. Who do you want in your foxhole? I mean, if the chips are down, who do you want there? It's incredibly important. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, there is a new king of beers in America, and not one brewed in Mexico. It's bringing the crown back home. Is it one you like? We'll tell you about it coming up. Number two, Jimmy Kimmel apparently going back on the air tonight so he can get back to getting creamed by Greg Gutfeld on a cable news station. Another brilliant move for the stockholders of Disney. Boy, you guys are like clowns. And number three, in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, with the FBI running down thousands of leads to see if there's anyone else connected, which, by the way, looks quite possible. There were a number of trans activist social media posts, you know this, appearing to predict the murder in the days leading up to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And others posting things like, we did it, within minutes of it happening. But in the bigger picture, how are the Democrats doing? I mean, honestly. You see people like Keith Olbermann out there, by the way, who's threatening Scott Jennings, apparently. You're next, MFer. But here's the part that I really like. In that same thread, those were deleted. This was not. Now we get the fascists off Real TV. That'd mean your career is next, Jennings. Send a tape to Real America's Voice. Well, gee, Keith, thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate you being here. Now take your meds and don't play with anything sharp. Please? See, we're compassionate. We care about you, Keith. You see the difference? We are not the same. We don't need meds, and we can play with sharp things safely. But in the bigger picture, how are the Democrats really doing? As many celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk. I mean, you saw it. They can deny it, but they did. They celebrated. Too many on the left. Democrats are yelling about how they're going to win by a mile in the midterms. Really? Really? What does Harry Anton over at Chicken Noodle News think about that? You know, Harry Anton is an interesting, he's an energetic little fella over at CNN. I actually kind of like him. I'm not going to kid you. I like Harry Anton. He's the poll guy. Here's what he thinks is going to happen. Listen to this.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing? You know, Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime, a big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans? Look at that, lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead, again, expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
What?
On all 3 issues. It ain't working, Kate. It ain't working, Kate. He is an energetic little fella, isn't he? There was more, by the way, for the Democrats to consider in the numbers. By the way, it didn't get any better from there. It in fact, doesn't get any better at all from there for the left. Listen.
Look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if The public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing. They ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party. At this particular point, Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
And again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2025. We still find that the Republicans leading on all three of these issues. And, of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall as well.
Yeah, so they're winning across the board. So you can say, well, Donald Trump is not popular. Okay. You know what's less popular than Donald Trump? Democrats. Socialist and communist policies. Republican leaders getting executed in public for speaking their mind. These things are not popular in America. Go figure. Public assassinations of people talking to college kids, not popular in America. Wow, go figure. It's crazy, right? Meanwhile, the Democrats in the House, 98. There have been two measures recently to condemn political violence. One came after those horrible murders in Minnesota, right, of the state house, former speaker of the state house of Minnesota and a senator. He lived and his wife lived, but the former speaker and her husband died, as you know. And there was a condemnation of political violence. Every Republican voted for it. Every Democrat voted for it. It was unanimous. When there was a condemnation and an observance of Charlie Kirk in the House, 48 Democrats voted against it. 50 more voted present. You see, the Democrats and the Republicans are not the same. And Hakeem Jeffries cannot answer why his party is failing at every turn. He just dodges the question. And his leadership, if you want to call it that, part of the problem. Listen.
62% of the Democrats want to see the leadership of your party replaced. Do these sorts of polls make you rethink your approach at all? How do you view this?
Well, I think I understand why people all across the country, not just Democrats, are disturbed by what has been happening in this country and the extremism that has been unleashed on the American people. And we are in what I have referred to often as a more is more environment. We just have to continue to do more, to aggressively push back against the Trump administration and push back in a manner consistent with American values. More town hall meetings, more protests, more demonstrations, more speeches on the House floor, more speeches on the Senate floor, more hearings that are led by Democrats on the Hill, off the Hill, of course, more site visits throughout the country, standing up in defense of the American people, standing up in defense of law-abiding immigrant communities.
I'm sorry, what? Is he still talking? Whew, powerful stuff there. Oh. All right, well, we'll take a break. Judge Phil Ginn will be here, president of Southern Evangelical Seminary. A martyr for truth. Charlie Kirk, up next. All right, welcome back to it. Glad to have you here as we continue the conversation. My next guest is Judge Phil Ginn. He's the president of the Southern Evangelical Seminary, ses.edu if you want to find out more. Judge, thank you for being here.
Steve, it's my pleasure.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Look, I had the great privilege to be in that arena, in that stadium on Sunday with 100,000 folks feeling the Holy Spirit. There's no question about that. It was a real privilege for me and my wife. But now Charlie Kirk is a name for the ages, a martyr for Christianity for America. What are your takeaways? It's been 2 weeks now. And yesterday, I still saw hundreds of people outside TPUSA at the memorial, taking pictures, leaving more flowers. It doesn't seem to be losing energy. What are your thoughts?
You know, Steve, I think that's the real question. There is a marked difference in the atmosphere before and after Charlie's death. And the question I have now, the only question I have now is will this be sustained? And I think that's an important question for all of us. I saw a statement the other day that I'm going to adopt myself, and it said, no reserve, no retreat, no regret.
I think that's no regret and no retreat. I think that's a great series of things to live by. But yes, will the fire keep burning in people? I mean, we saw some people believe, Lucas Miles, who's in charge of TPUSA Faith, a pastor from Indiana, not too far from here, said that he saw the biggest turnout at church for any given Sunday, maybe ever, the Sunday after Charlie's murder. I don't know if that's true, but I have no reason to doubt it. I mean, there's a mass surge of people back into the pews for the first time since before COVID. Is there a revival here?
I think the revival had already started, and I think Charlie was the champion of that revival amongst young people. I think that was the intent of Satan, to snuff that revival out by taking Charlie out in the way that he did. But I honestly believe that may be the catalyst to fan the flames of the revival that's coming. Our little church in Boone, North Carolina, home of Appalachian State University. I'll give a plug to my alma mater there. But, you know, we're seeing 300-400 students now coming to Wednesday night Bible studies. And we're hearing story after story of folks who said, I was an atheist, or I'd fallen away from church, or whatever the case may be, commonly called nuns and duns. And they're saying, because of Charlie and because of looking into that particular situation, I decided to take a second look, and here I am. So anecdotally, I think that there is certainly a catalyst for a great change in Christianity. And at SES, we've been talking about perhaps our greatest mission field as Christians is the American church.
Yeah. Mission church. It's this galvanizing that I've seen.
It is.
It's a galvanizing, you know, and look, the only thing I can draw on is Thomas Jefferson. The tree of liberty has to be watered with the blood of patriots. And maybe that's what happened here. It's a terrible price to pay, but the outcome, the back end of this, 100,000 people in a stadium praying together for a 31-year-old man, 31. The impact is remarkable. And it's not just here. It's in South Korea. It's in Australia. It's in England. Charlie's impact is a global phenomenon at this point, isn't it?
Well, you know, sometimes it takes an event like this to wake folks up. I certainly would want to undo what has been done from my own perspective, because Charlie's outreach was remarkable for such an early age. But, you know, it happened to Joseph and his brothers, and Joseph looked at his brothers and said, what you meant for ill, God meant for good. And Satan's not going to win this thing. He's not going to be able to snuff out the gospel by taking out one of our prominent folks who preach the gospel and who walk the gospel as Charlie did. And so I think that with the blood of a martyr seeds are sown in the ground to rise up an army. And I think that's what's going to happen in this case. And here at SCS, we're very concerned about that. We think that one of the things that's missing in the American church is disciple making. And so we're starting programs to help folks not only come to Christ, but to understand what they believe and why they believe it.
Yeah, it's, in the early 1970s, I think it was 1971 that my wife mentioned earlier that Jesus won the cover of Time magazine because there was a Jesus revolution, they said in the early 1970s. Is it happening again? Judge, that's my last question today. Is it happening again? Is it happening right now?
In my opinion, it is happening. I think we're seeing the precursor seismic shocks to the major earthquake that's coming. And I believe that it's imminent, and I think it'll start with our young people and will start despite traditional Christianity. I just believe that one more time, the Lord will let us see what's going to happen in America through his word going out and the gospel being preached.
Judge, I appreciate your time here today.
Steve, always a pleasure. Look forward to doing it again very soon. Absolutely,
sir. Thank you very much. You can
you,
find
sir.
out more at the Southern Evangelical Seminary, ses.edu, ses.edu. You can find out more about Judge Phil Ginn and what he's doing to help keep this flame burning hot. All right, glad to see you here today. Find me at stevegruber.com. Check out the website. Please do that. Follow us on all the social media platforms, be it Truth, X, Facebook, Instagram, all of them. Hit the like button. Bam, bam, bam. And YouTube. Love the YouTube, folks. Let's grow that, shall we? YouTube, people tell me it's the easiest, best way to watch and to listen on your device. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. Yeah, Keith Olbermann getting plenty of attention today, and the most he's gotten in a long time. Even Chris Cillizza, the far-left commentator, writer, whatever, calling him out. Something is broken in Keith, has been for a very long time. This comes after Keith Olbermann threatened Scott Jennings. You're next, mother effer, but keep mugging to the camera. Yeah, well, Keith. Keith also told Scott he should put in an application at Real America's Voice. I hope he does, and I kind of like my job when I'm over there. It's funny, but I appreciate Keith watching Real America's Voice. I wonder if he watches America's Voice live every day at 3 o'clock when I'm on. I wonder if he watches the morning program here when I'm on Real America's Voice. I hope he does. I hope he takes his medicine, too, because Keith is not a well human being. Not well at all. How about this? The hate in America is real. And even at Starbucks, where a person wrote a racist's favorite drink when a guy came in and ordered tea with honey in it. He took pictures. The person no longer works at Starbucks. Stop being dumb. Just be freedom of speech doesn't mean you get to say what you want at work to potential customers and cost your employer money. It doesn't work that way.
All right, Steve. Sorry. I gotta know the king of the beers.
It's right here in my hand.
Okay. All right, let's go.
You want to know?
Yeah.
Mick Ultra, the winner. Michelob Ultra, you know, those little thin cans, dethrones Modelo Especial. Becomes America's new top-selling beer. Anheuser-Busch back on top because it was Bud Light from Anheuser-Busch. Of course, they had their Bud Light moment. They melted down. But here it is. Michelob Ultra notched a major milestone, surpassing all its rivals, become the top-selling beer in America. Its rise to the top, including Modelo, in large part because of its heavily capitalizing on the sports industry's biggest events. So there it is. And they didn't give some dude Mick Ultra in a bubble bath. All right, so maybe they learned their lesson. Do you like Mick Ultra there, Anthony?
No, I don't like it. You could have kept that one, honestly.
Yeah, I don't really like that one either. But hey. But women seem to like it, and I guess enough dudes like it. It's number one. Anyhow, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, working our way back in now. Greatly appreciate you being here as we work. Again, it was a real privilege. I'm telling you, a privilege to be in the room in Phoenix with my wife on Sunday. We were on the media deck, so we had just the perfect angle to watch everything inside the room, right there in the front. Yeah, you know, it was interesting, and somebody asked me about this. What were the other networks like? And I was next to CNN and some other folks, and they got wrinkled up noses. They say the only word that came to mind for me was sourpuss. They just said, It's like my father used to say, some people go through life with a pinched nerve, and there's nothing you can do to make them happy. It didn't matter that the music was incredible, that 100,000 people were united in faith and patriotism. It didn't matter to these people. They're down there giving the sour narrative on all of it. It was pretty odd to me, but doesn't matter, because Charlie Kirk lives on through the ages now. I truly believe that as a martyr for God and for America. Eric Matheny is an attorney, a podcaster, a social commentator, and co-host of Bob and Eric Save America. He joins me now. Eric, nice to see you this morning.
Hey, Steve, thank you for having me again.
What a remarkable, painful, galvanizing 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's every emotion. I mean, I saw it in the room on Sunday. There was pain and tears and agony, and there was joy and hope and happiness and eyes on the future. Where are you 2 weeks on?
I'm very conflicted. And I watched it. I wasn't there, but I watched Erica Kirk get up and forgive her husband's killer. And the first thing I thought, you are a better human than I am. Yeah. I will acknowledge my faults. I am a primal, murderous human being. And I go to dark places when I think, God forbid something happens to my family. I don't have that spirituality. I don't have the ability to do what she did. And that's a testament to her character. And for those who say it's a sign of weakness, let me phrase it this way. What she has done, not only embodying the teachings of Christ, who said that on the cross as he was being murdered, she has given up the burden that she now has to carry. She is free of that burden. She is free to love and cherish and go forward with the great legacy of her husband and not be hampered and just poisoned by hate, because we know what that feeling's like. It's poison. And to relinquish that, this guy, Tyler Robinson, his life is going to be a living hell until his execution date, which I imagine at some point he's going to be praying for that. He's going to have an unimaginable, nightmarish life from this point forward. So any burden that was placed upon her to hate this man, she's relinquished herself of that, which is remarkable, but it's something I can't do. And I have to admire her for that. As far as where I am, the night it happened, I called a very, very dear friend of mine. You guys know him as Gunther Eagleman on X,
Sure.
Very dear friend. I called him, and I just there was just this deadpan silence. And I said, what now? And we were just trying to figure out, what is the move going forward? Are we all just going to post about it and life goes on? Because sometimes that seems to be what people do. Let me gripe about it online. Let me express something. Let me say something witty or heartfelt. And then no real action transpires. But one thing, 2 weeks later, removed from it, watching, 60, 70,000 people in Arizona, people all over the world.
A lot more than that, I think, actually. I think they had 75,000-ish inside the building, and they had overflow. There were people everywhere. I mean, it was remarkable. In fact, I asked the Uber driver. We get picked up at 5 a.m. to get to a church so the media could get in. And the roads were all backed up for miles. I said, is it like this for a football game for the Cardinals? Oh, never. What about when the Super Bowl's here? No, I've never seen anything like it. He said the roads began to back up at 3 a.m. We have been galvanized here, Eric. And I'm hopeful that the fire burns. I truly believe that for many, the argument was lost for the left on the 10th of September at 12:23 local time in Utah. I believe the argument was lost to a generation of young people who were already migrating towards conservatism, in large part because of Charlie Kirk. But I think that it really galvanized this young generation in a way that we can't even measure yet. At least that's my belief. I'll see if I'm right. It'll take some time to sort it out, but that's where I am today.
I think you're right. And one thing I've noticed in the 2 weeks since that happened is Charlie's greatest legacy is going to be the number of people he's turned towards, not just conservatism as a political ideology, but God. That is one thing. We are missing that in 2025. Everybody's running around like their own God, wanting their 15 minutes of fame, every indulgence at the touch of a tap of a touchscreen. And here they are now realizing, like, I'm surrendering. There's a higher power. There's a plan. And if that can be Charlie's greatest legacy, his death will not have been in vain. And you're absolutely right, Steve. The left lost. They lost more than the plot. They lost their minds. They lost their credibility on September 10th, and I don't believe they recover from this.
Well, and it's gotten worse. I mean, and here's the thing. They're bringing Jimmy Kimmel back, apparently. Here's a guy who went out and openly lied about the assassin. And there could be more people connected to this assassin. I mean, you've got Kash Patel out there running down thousands of leads still, and you saw a lot of social media posts that seemed to give the indication there were people that were aware that this was, a possibility going to happen, and then posting immediately after we did it. But what I'm getting at is this. You see people on the left posting online and celebrating, and people saw that. They saw a teacher or a carpenter or a guy that runs a business down the street or their wives or whatever, and they say, my God, I want nothing to do with that. What kind of a ghoul celebrates like that? So it wasn't just the young people that were galvanized. It's other people across the spectrum that saw people celebrate, dancing literally on the grave of Charlie Kirk going, whoa. That's way beyond where I want to be, and I think that has a big impact too.
The veil has been lifted, 1,000%. It has been exposed, and people are very turned off. I don't care if you're a conservative. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter. I don't care if you're apolitical. To look at that, to see people actively celebrating, joyously experiencing happiness at the murder of a 31-year-old father and husband, many people, politics notwithstanding, cannot abide by that. And it's either going to turn them to conservatism or it's going to turn them off from politics completely. But this is a critical moment for the Democrats if they want to do. And I thought they should have done this long ago. If they want to take a real good, let's call it a post-mortem, and look at what they did to invite this in. Remember, they're going to stand there. They're going to distance themselves from Tyler Robinson, but he falls under the same ideological umbrella. This is liberalism. It's a Big Tent. You have, the blue-collar union families in Pennsylvania, and you have the online furries, trans-obsessed 21-year-olds who somehow think assassination is the surest way to silence somebody. And it's really ironic that we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel and having this whole, free speech is under attack. Free speech was under attack on September 10th on a Utah college campus when a man was murdered for speaking his mind and opening others the floor for others to challenge his ideas.
That's right.
And nobody could do it. Nobody could out-debate him, and they had to kill him. He didn't hold it.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought, Eric. We got to hit a break here. We're going to come back on that. Because cancel culture was okay when Bill Maher got canceled way back when, and Roseanne got canceled, and Megyn Kelly and Tucker, they didn't care then. Suddenly it's a free speech issue. We're going to cover that when we come back. Eric Matheny, attorney, podcaster, social commentator, and he's the co-host of Bob and Eric Save America. Make sure you find that one to listen to. We'll be right back. All right, coming back to it now with my good friend Eric Matheny. Again, Bob and Eric Save America. I want to go back to this whole cancel culture thing and freedom of speech. Look, if your show is losing piles of money, then you get to be fired, Eric. That's the way it is. If you lose money, you don't get to keep your job and charge corporate America piles of money, right? That's the way that works.
That's the way that works. And I want to stress something when we talk about freedom of speech. When we talk about freedom of speech, I feel like I have to give this lecture once or twice a year. Remind people, freedom of speech in the First Amendment sense applies to the government. If Jimmy Kimmel went out on his show and made a statement and the next day the Department of Justice indicted him for it, that is a freedom of speech issue. That is a First Amendment violation. If a private company says, I don't like what you said is potentially slanderous and opens us to civil liability, we're going to take you off the air. That's a business decision. That's dollars and cents. And I will tell you this, if he were a boon for the network, if his ratings were through the roof, if he was making money, if advertisers were calling up going, put me on Jimmy Kimmel, he's got 15 million viewers a night. Steve, I would venture to guess we have more people watching this right now than Jimmy Kimmel gets on an average night. And that's, that's just generally the direction.
I mean, let's be honest about this. Gutfeld, that little feller, he's going to club him like a baby seal again tonight. He will, because his ratings are off the charts. But I'm seeing people like some other conservative podcasters saying, well, Jimmy Kimmel's going to be the new voice for the left. I don't think so. I don't believe that at all. I think he's going to fail miserably. He's going to continue to lose money. He's going to continue to run his mouth, and half of America will never watch him ever, ever, ever. And you and I are on that. I'm never going to. Why would I ever watch a guy? He's not funny, first of all, at all. He's not.
Well, I've never watched him. Look, if he was going to be the voice for the left, he would have done it by now. The bottom line is that he could withstand the scandal if he was making money for the network. It's a revenue decision. If he's making a lot of money, they would find a way to keep him.
That's absolutely true. And look, lots of people, lose shows. Bill Maher, Roseanne. I mean, what about her freedom of speech? I don't remember all these leftists screaming to save Roseanne or Megyn or Tucker or even Dave Chappelle, who, by the way, rips on people like me. And I find him funny. You know why? Because Chappelle is funny to me on several things, and therefore he survives the scandal, as you put it. It's a different day in America, though, isn't it, as we move forward? Freedom of speech is incredibly important to me and to you. The one thing I'd like to say about this area, I don't want the FCC involved with whatever ABC does. Just keep them out of it. I don't want any entanglements with the government. Let the market decide who survives and who does not. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. And look, Jimmy Kimmel maybe, learn how to podcast. I mean, there are other methods by which you can get your voice out there. And look, it's funny because they're going to rally around Jimmy Kimmel for a couple of days. Do you really think these liberals are going to be home? Oh, wait, I got to put Kimmel on. Come on. They're going to treat it the way they treat the WNBA. Tell me the last time they went to a WNBA game.
Yeah. Nobody goes to that stuff. Looking at one other thing here. I think the Democrats were already in real trouble. Look, Donald Trump's numbers went up 10 points. They've come back a little bit since, but they went up 10 points from the time that Charlie Kirk died until the memorial event on Sunday. 10 points, according to Rasmussen and Mark Mitchell, who I think does pretty good numbers, to say the least. There was already this movement in America and this galvanization of supporting Trump more than he was supported in the past. And then this happens. And then I see the numbers over at CNN. Harry Enton saying, look, Republicans are winning on all the major issues, on the economy, on the border, on jobs, on all of it. I think the Democrats are in real trouble. They think that they're going to just automatically win the midterms. I don't think they are, Eric. I think they're in real trouble. I think this galvanizes opposition to them. Again, the celebrating of Charlie's death and everything else. I think that we're going to have to fight our way all the way to the election again. But I think we're in a lot better shape on the conservative side of the world than one might think. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree. And also, you got to remember that the Democrats are running around leaderless. There really is no designated leader. They're not doing what they need to do right now to coalesce their power, get ready for the midterms, and then put their eyes on 28. You have way too many cooks in the kitchen. You got the AOCs, you got the Gavin Newsoms. There really is no coalescing behind one person who's going to be the heir apparent. We did that beautifully, probably about 2 years before the 24 election. There was a little talk. It was a little uncertain as to whether Donald Trump would run. Ron DeSantis throws his hat into the ring. We don't know who's going to be the guy. And then for a good 2 years, we had this massive effort behind Trump to get him reelected. And that was the time he was going through his indictments every other week, indicted. So lo and behold, we had a lot of fire going after us. As far as 28 goes, I wouldn't want to be a Democrat right now. I think their brand has been absolutely destroyed. I don't think they stand for anything. I think a lot of people, even Democrats, are going like, what does our party stand for? And the fact remains is that that party needs to come out and unequivocally reject the ideologies that they've embraced, the Antifa, the trans obsession. The trans issue was a big deal for 24. That turned a lot of moderate Democrats away. I had pull me aside and say the trans issue, just I don't want it shoved down my throat. I don't want some teenage boy in my daughter's locker room. And I never voted for Trump, and I voted for him.
That's right. You forgot to mention the other leader of the Democrat Party, Kamala Harris, who did a big interview yesterday and sounded like a complete idiot. Said, I couldn't pick Buttigieg because he was gay. Oh, well, that's going to go over big in circles. But here's the thing. Speaking of Rasmussen, brand new poll coming today, maybe tomorrow. Half of Kamala voters say Charlie Kirk was speaking hateful words and his murder was tragic, but understandable? Really? Understandable. Half of the voters of Kamala Harris say it was understandable. That's why we are not the same. It is not a both sides issue. Last word to you.
It is not a both sides issue. And if you want an example of that, look at George Floyd, someone who was unknown, who was a criminal, who tragically died in police custody, led to 7 months of this country being set on fire with the Democrat Party fully endorsing it, encouraging it on TV. What happens when one of our renowned conservative leaders is murdered for the whole world to see? We pray. We gather, we pray, we coalesce our power, and we move forward. Not one riot, not one structure fire. We are not the same.
We are not the same. Eric Matheny. He's an attorney, I forgive you for being an attorney. He's an attorney, a podcaster, social commentator, and co-host of Bob and Eric Save America. Good talking to you, Eric. You come back anytime. I love it when you're here.
Thank you very much.
There you have it. All right, so find it. Bob and Eric Save America. At least they're doing their best. We're working on it here, too, every day, as you know. You can find out more at stevegruber.com. Follow me on all the social media platforms as well. I appreciate you being here today. Let's see, after the break, we get to hear about sports. Did you see who won Monday Night Football last night? Yeah, that's right. The Detroit Lions. We'll be right back. All right, how about a little sports with Brock Palmbush?
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The Detroit Lions rushed for 224 yards and 4 touchdowns as a team, and the defense sacked Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson 7 times, and the Lions beat the Ravens on the road 38-30 in NFL Monday Night Football last night. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 7 passes for 77 yards and a touchdown as well. The Lions moved to 2-1 on the year. The Ravens fall to 1-2. 3 games in Major League Baseball last night. Atlanta thumped Washington 11-5. San Diego beat Milwaukee 5-4 in 11 innings, and St. Louis got by San Francisco 6-5. In college basketball, Auburn head coach Bruce Pearl retired yesterday after 11 seasons at the school. He guided the Tigers to a pair of Final Four appearances during his tenure, including last season where they lost to eventual national champ Florida in the national semifinals. Bruce's son Steven will take over as head coach. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciated. And we've got a lot coming up the next hour as well as we work our way through it. See, we got Erica Reed's going to be here, Acting Section Chief, Center for Countering Human Trafficking. I can come in here. Hey, come on, say hi to everybody. Look, everybody, it's Landon. Landon's on the program. Say good morning.
Morning.
There you go. Good morning. All right, have a good day at school.
All right, love you.
Love you too. All right, so see how that works around here? Oh, we got a round of applause and everything from the gallery. Nicely done.
That's live, baby.
That's live. That's the way it works around here. Anyhow, I got a little off track. So, let's see. Where are we going now? Oh, yeah. We've got Erica Reed coming up, Hako Klenyans, and Alariza Jafarzada. He is in New York for this United Nations gathering happening the next couple of days. It's important because these are the Iranians screaming for freedom in their own country. They are the government in exile. They want freedom for the Iranian people. So do I. I'd love that to happen. Wouldn't you? All right, we're going to take a break here. Remember to support the people that support this program every single day. Hillsdale, Block Trust IRA, Purovet, Cardone. This program brought to you by Purovet today. It is the program to help veterans get their own franchise at PuroClean. Purovet.com to find out more. Purovet.com to find out more. I'll be right back. always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, welcome back to it as we continue the conversation. Having you here with me today, I greatly appreciate it. Who do you want in your foxhole? Hopefully somebody is going to stick up for you. Go shoulder to shoulder when the chips are down. All right, three big things this hour. Number one. Might even get Brock to weigh in on this one in a bit. The Michigan High School Athletic Association, Kalamazoo County School acts after a video catch a JV football player pancaking an opponent. They said it was over the top. To me, look, you teach the kid to block, he blocks. Even if the kid's smaller, he flops on top of him, all right? That's the way that is. Number two, they continue to look back at Charlie Kirk's life, what it'll mean going forward. We'll continue to dig into that. And number three, let's talk about Tylenol, all right? Let's talk about the Tylenol and pregnancy thing, right? When you take the fact of the matter is when you take acetaminophen, which, by the way, I'm not sure President Trump ever said that word before in his life before yesterday. He couldn't say the word. He fell all over it. Of course, I have that problem on occasion, and I do this for a living, so I get it. Acetaminophen, part of it is converted into a toxic byproduct called NAPQI, N-acetyl-P-benzoquinone, imime. Look, I can't make this stuff up. Your body can only clear that toxin with glutathione. It's your body's master antioxidant, glutathione. In pregnancy, your glutathione supply is already lower, by the way. Babies in the womb have almost none to spare. Result, more oxidative stress in a rapidly developing brain, and that matters. That matters. Now, I'm not saying that they've got the culprit nailed here, but these things matter. Studies measuring acetaminophen in cord blood. Let me repeat this so you understand this. Studies measuring acetaminophen in cord blood found higher exposure was linked with autism and ADHD. Later on, in the Journal of the American Medical Association Psych 2019, another found those same babies had higher oxidative stress markers. Brain Science 2021. To put this in, and I'm giving you the references. Let me put it in perspective for you. I mentioned this earlier, but I want to say it again. Acetaminophen is already the number one cause of acute liver failure in the United States. I had to go fact check that. It's true. 46% of acute liver failure cases come directly from acetaminophen in adults. Because when glutathione runs out, damage happens. Why would we assume it's 100% safe for developing children? Why would we think that? Not every study agrees, however. A Swedish sibling study didn't find a causal link. That's the Journal of the American Medical Association 2024. However, the biological mechanism is real and enough evidence exists consuming acetaminophen during pregnancy deserves a second thought. I mean, is that so much to consider? And yes, acetaminophen does cross the placenta. Studies using both human and animal models show that acetaminophen and its metabolites pass readily from maternal circulation into the baby in utero. But ACOG, that's the American College of OBGYNs and gynecologists, says it's safe. They do. They do. The obstetricians and gynecologists say that Tylenol is safe. However, the American Association of Pediatricians was sponsored by Coca-Cola until 2015. The American Medical Association struck a multi-million-dollar deal in the 90s to endorse Sunbeam products. They backtracked after lawsuits on that one. The ACOG itself publishes conflict of interest disclosures because industry ties are so common and so complex. So because ACOG recommends it, that doesn't really put it in the clear now, does it? Now, here's what, and Donald Trump had trouble saying it, but here's what he said yesterday. I want you to hear it.
So, ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff, you'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel.
And you get it. It went on for a while from there. Look, moms, look, hear this. The ACOG, the AAP, the AMA, they're made up of fallible men and women. They have different interests, conflicts of interest, whatever it may be. If you took Tylenol in pregnancy because your doctor told you it was safe, don't carry guilt. Don't do that. You made the best choice with the information you had at the time and you trusted your doctor. But also remember this. Every single drug ever pulled from the market, every single drug ever pulled off the market was once labeled safe and effective. Safe and effective. Approval does not equal risk-free. There's a time and a place for Tylenol, I'd say, but it isn't harmless. It carries side effects and risks like every single pharmaceutical on the market. Every single one. The safest path? Use drugs only when you need them. Did your OB ever mention glutathione, oxidative stress, or the mixed research behind Tylenol? I'm going to guess they didn't. Did your doctor ever tell you any of that? I'm going to guess they didn't. Did you know that Tylenol was the #1 reason in America for acute liver failure? 46% of all cases in adults? I never knew that. So I'm going to guess you did not either. Remarkable.
Is aspirin the same as Tylenol?
No. Aspirin, invented by Bayer, 1899. Aspirin and Tylenol, not the same.
So aspirin and ibuprofen are safe.
Apparently. Ibuprofen can tear your stomach up, though. My advice is this. Yeah, I like ibuprofen, always have. Never been a fan of Tylenol. That's me.
I don't take any of it.
Yeah. When in doubt, do drugs. No, wait, that's wrong. That's wrong, Steve. Anthony. Don't say that again, Anthony. The actual truth is, and you know who's a big proponent of, don't do it unless you really actually absolutely have to, Ivy. And I give her credit for that. Don't take something unless you absolutely have to. Meanwhile, this high school player, Kalamazoo County, they've taken a strong, decisive action after video service of a junior varsity player jumping on a smaller opponent after play had stopped. I didn't know that it stopped. The part I saw didn't have sound, so anyhow, I'm not sure what happened. The 15-year-old mother told her son suffered 2 spinal fractures in his vertebrae. A big player just smashed him. Brock, what do you think of that? You got about 30 seconds. Are you in on that?
I saw the video, and it was excessive. The play was over. The lineman had pancaked the kid and then jumped on him again and caused the spinal damage. It's bad. It's bad.
All right, so he's out for sure. He's out.
Yep.
There you have it. From the desk of Brock Palmbush, we get the facts, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact is the Tigers are in real trouble. They got 3 games to play the Indians. Oh, you can't call them the Indians. What are they called? The Guardians? Whatever they're called. Anyhow, we'll take a break and be right back. I got something else I want to share with you. All right, back to it now as we dig deeper into all the topics that matter to you the most. Work harder, do better, as we do every day here. In the spirit of Charlie Kirk, we will work harder, we will do better every single day, all right? Fair enough. Erica Reed joined me, Acting Section Chief, Center for Countering Human Trafficking. Erica, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Greatly appreciate it. Look, I don't know why it is, but the state I live in, Michigan, is one of the most highly sought out states for human trafficking. We have a high propensity for human trafficking in this state. Not quite sure why, but you say it's back to school time, a critical time to stop human trafficking. I could not possibly agree more. I don't think there's a more egregious crime, really. I think it's the most horrible thing possible. Why can we be more adapted today during back to school time to stop this than at other times during the year? Why is this time more important?
I think this time is more important because we have to think about the routines of younger people. So they're going to the bus stops, they're going back to like parties or homecomings or games. And if we know their routine, then we have to understand that traffickers know their routine as well. So we want to be in spaces that, just like the trafficker is there, we want to make sure that our campaign is there to raise awareness as well.
You call it the Blue Campaign, and we need to stop human trafficking. Look, we still have, thousands of kids that are unaccounted for every year in this country. Many that came across the border, others, like you say, that maybe get picked off by those that are targeting certain children, right? Yeah, the pressure on children comes from all directions, doesn't it?
Well, if we think about targeting children, we have to think about how traffickers target. They can target children either peer-to-peer recruitment, where maybe they are already trafficking someone and they're recruited. They have to make them or force them into recruiting other victims to be victimized by the crime. We have to think about online. And when we think about online, we only focus on social media. We should also focus on gaming as well, because any space where you can communicate is a place where a trafficker can be. And so we know that they're in those spaces as well. Some of the other places could possibly be, we know that they use violence to target. We also know that they use psychological manipulation in some cases when we think about grooming. And if they already know the person, they can also still utilize grooming as a form of targeting.
Really? You know, and here's this is what I find most upsetting, I suppose, Erica, is the fact that the appetite for human trafficking in America is stronger than just about any place else in the world. That human trafficking happens here in this country. It's not like it's some third world deal. It happens here, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Human trafficking happens here, right in the United States. It happens across the country, across the world. And a lot of people in the United States only think that it happens overseas. That's one of the myths that we like to dispel, that human trafficking does happen here in the United States.
Yeah. And it's for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's, I saw people that were working in marijuana farms in California. Of course, there's sex trafficking. There's underage workers. People are exploited for a whole laundry list of reasons, aren't they?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I want to point out is that we have to know that if traffickers could be anybody, then we know that trafficking can happen anywhere. I want to dispel a myth really quick. A lot of times people only focus on outside of the home, but trafficking can also happen inside of the home as well.
Really? What do you mean by that? Elaborate on that, would you please?
Sure. Traffickers could be anyone. A person that's victimized by the crime could be anyone. And then we have to know that if those are the two cases, then trafficking can happen anywhere. Traffickers could be an employer. Traffickers could be a romantic partner. Traffickers could also be parents.
Yeah, we've seen terrible stories of parents trying to sell their children and things like that make the ghastly headlines from time to time. What you're suggesting, though, is it's more common than we would, maybe not that particular case, but more common than people would actually conceive.
I would say that it is possible that it can happen.
Right. And if it's possible, because I wouldn't have thought of that, Erica. I wouldn't have considered that to be a concern. But the United States Department of Homeland Security says there are signs of things, warning signs. And I'll go back to the old saying, if you see something, say something. Don't just stand there idly, because you could see something terrible happening, and trust your gut, I suppose. But what are some of the signs, some of the things that people should say, wait a second, that's not right?
Some of the signs that I would point out, I always tell people to go to our website so you can learn a little bit more about indicators. Go to dhs.gov/blue campaign. And you can learn about more indicators, but I'll give you a few today. Some could be bruising. Bruising is one, and I'm not talking about the kid that plays a sport, but there might be new bruising. Another one could be tattoos. Tattoos could be one where a trafficker can utilize a tattoo to say that this is my possession. Another one could possibly change a behavior. I think as an adult working with youth or parents, they know their children and even friends, peers, know their friends where they notice that there's a change in behavior. An outgoing student is no longer outgoing. They're a little bit more secretive. Some of the other ones I think that we should also identify is excessive amount of money. We know that summer job did not, give them that much money, or expensive items as well. Those are some of the things that I think parents and adults working with youth and even youth can look out for.
Yeah. All good advice. Again, give us the website. If people see something, look, folks, human trafficking is huge in America. It's a terribly heartbreaking thing, but you can do something to help stop it. Listen to what Erica has to say. What's the website again?
Yes, it's dhs.gov/blue campaign. We have free materials. You can also, we can come out and do free trainings as well. So please check out our website.
Let's make a difference out there. Erica, great job. Really appreciate you being here. Come back anytime because it's a horrible problem that has to be stopped by whatever means necessary. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Really appreciate it. There you have it, Erica Reed. Would you ever have considered that human trafficking happens inside the home? That never would have occurred to me. I think that's just gut-wrenching and awful. Yeah. All right, dhs.gov/blue campaign. You can find out more. Yeah, dhs.gov/blue campaign. All right, we're going to take a break. Watching what's happening in New York, the United Nations getting together, and in a moment we're going to talk to Alireza Jafarzada, part of the Council of Resistance from Iran, as they're there, demanding freedom for their people. We'll be back on the Steve Gruber Show. All right. Human trafficking, what a terrible thing. It's got me you just think about things that you don't normally think about. Sound of Freedom. Remember, that was about human trafficking, and the left tried to make it about, I don't know what a powerful and important movie Sound of Freedom was. Meanwhile, the FBI Director Kash Patel says his agency has arrested a man accused of shooting up an ABC News station. He was released. Of course he was, in California. Sacramento man, Anibal Hernandez Santana, had been released on a $200,000 bail following his initial arrest. But they rearrested him. He shot up the ABC News station, ABC 10. That after Jimmy Kimmel was canceled. Anibal Hernandez Santana, 63. The FBI will pursue targeted acts of violence to the fullest extent of the law, calling the shooting unacceptable, did Kash Patel. No one was injured. Bullet damage was inside the station's front lobby. Local law enforcement led the investigation, but federal agents became involved after determining the incident targeted a federally licensed broadcaster. Hernandez Santana was initially arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon, shooting into an occupied building. I believe this is a Sinclair station, by the way. So Sinclair is beefing up security at all of its ABC affiliates, right? Here's something for you. Law enforcement found a handwritten note that read, "For hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags, do not support Patel, Bongino, and AG Pam Bondi. They're next. CK from above." Right. Dangerous individuals out there that will shoot up television stations because Jimmy Kimmel gets canceled while telling you it's okay that Charlie Kirk has been murdered, but taking Jimmy Kimmel off the air is hateful. Right. These people are not right at all. Not right at all. All right, I'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the conservative movement, what's left of it in South Africa. They made an appearance here in Michigan over the weekend. We'll talk about it. If you thought it was challenging to be conservative in America these days, or any day for that matter, I can assure you it's much tougher in other places. Jacko Kleinhans is the head of international liaisons at the Solidarity Movement, a movement of more than 20 conservative organizations with 500,000 members in the nation of South Africa. Jacko, thank you for being here today.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity.
I greatly appreciate you being here. You were at the biannual leadership conference on Mackinac Island over the weekend. You're also a speaker. Africa, South Africa, Afrikaners, solidarity, all of these things. Donald Trump, America, and the relationship with all of us, and then the way forward. These are all things you talked about, right? And in South Africa right now, man, there are some frightening things coming out. There's a rise of communists in that nation, which was predictable, I believe, and socialists, which I think was predictable. And the eradication of white farmers, also predictable. If you look at what happened in places like Rhodesia, that is now, of course, Zimbabwe, things happen. When things move too fast, people get killed along the way. What is the conservative movement like in South Africa? Share with our listeners.
Yes, I think the conservative movement in South Africa is one of a movement under great pressure, under persecution. Our values are persecuted, our language, culture, identity. To put it to you very simply, I think that the communist socialist government in South Africa believe that we are a kind of Western outpost in Africa. They view us as something of the Western civilization and a Western kind of civilization in Africa that need to be dealt with, that need to be brought to its knees, that need to be destructed. That is why they do everything from taking over our schools, removing monuments, changing street names, implementing extreme racial policies, what you will call in America DEI policies. In South Africa, it's called affirmative action and black economic empowerment. They have quotas, racial quotas at universities. They do that in workplaces. They enforce it on employers. And the government in South Africa became very, very much anti-American over the last few years, but also anti-Western. You hear the kind of language that they speak, that they refer to Western imperialists when they talk about the US government, for example. And they link us as a group, as the Afrikaner people in South Africa, who are a conservative people of 2.5 million people. They link us very directly to Western civilization and also to America.
Yeah, there was a book written in 1962 by Robert Rourke called Uhuru, which is Swahili for freedom. You probably knew that.
Yes.
And basically, it says if you make these transitions to decolonize or go from one government to the next too quickly, a lot of bad things happen. That was based in Kenya, and they, for the most part, have come out the other side. But South Africa, you're a long way from being reconciled and whole again. It seems to me as an observer. Your thoughts?
No, you're absolutely right. I think it's even worse. It's moving in the opposite direction. I think there was a complete misinterpretation of South Africa during the 1990s. And the American president, Bill Clinton, was completely wrong on South Africa. In the late 1990s, when he visited South Africa, he opened up America. He gave millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in donations to the ANC government in South Africa. And there was this perception that South Africa will just suddenly become a Western democratic country in Africa. I think they didn't really look at what the ANC, the African National Congress that governs South Africa, what they stand for. It's been a communist socialist party for many decades. They had direct links in the Soviet Union, and that is what played out over the last 30 years. If you look today, South Africa is working militarily with Iran, with Cuba. The South African government just gave money to the Cubans to modernize the South African army, whatever that means, It's all very ideologically based. They work with Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, China. They cooperate very directly with China to undermine US interests in South Africa and in Africa, on the African continent. So it's moving in exactly the opposite direction from what we would have, and the West and the US would like South Africa to be. This whole idea of a wonderful democratic rainbow nation of people really coming together and building a better country. You know, South Africa is really becoming a failed state, and in this process, we see the same steps that we saw in Zimbabwe, our neighboring country. We see now the first steps of the expropriation of farmland. That happened last week. The bill was signed a few months ago by the
Slow down again
president.
here. What happened last week?
Yes, so last week was announced the first expropriations of farmland without any compensation. They call it expropriation without compensation. It just means taking people's land and not giving them anything, you know. So until now, over the last few years, we had a land expropriation program, but farmers at least were remunerated. They got some money, not always market value, but they got some money for their land. The government now approved a bill so that they can simply expropriate people's land without any compensation. And the first one happened last week, a big farmland in Gauteng, east of Johannesburg, worth about 30 million rand. And we're really fearful about that. That's our message to America. And we are really happy that President Trump and Secretary Marco Rubio spoke out against this expropriation bill earlier this year.
Yeah. So they expropriated a farm worth, let me see here, how many rand? And what was the rough value in American dollars?
Yes, so $1 is about 18 rand, and that was a 30 million rand farmland. So yeah, it's about 1.8, 1.9, I think, a million American dollars. Our fear is simply that they will, in the lead up to the next election, we will see much more of this. For the simple reason we have a failed state, we have a government who completely failed in delivering services to normal South Africans. We have extremely high unemployment amongst black South Africans.
And who do you think, real quickly before we run out of time here, is Ramaphosa, is he going to win this race for president?
I don't think so. No, they're under great pressure.
I'm almost out. Does it even matter? You're on a terrible track here. Does it even matter who wins?
No, it doesn't, because the alternatives are even far more leftist. They are far more leftist, the two alternative parties. That's very dangerous, yes.
Very dangerous. You come back anytime.
Thank you.
Because I don't think anybody's talking about this, Jaco. Jaco Kleinhans, International Liaison Solidarity Movement in South Africa. Be safe. I don't know if South Africa's a safe place anymore, but be safe. I've been there a couple of times. I enjoyed my time there, but it's a different place today than it was 20 years ago. I'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now. Big gathering this day in New York City at the United Nations. My next guest is Alireza Jafarzadeh. He's the Deputy Director of the U.S. Office of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, NCRI, and the author of The Iran Threat. Sir, good to have you back on the program. Big day because you guys are out there. You're out there working for Iranian freedom. And you've got a big get-together today to demonstrate to the world, all the guests coming into the United Nations, that the Iranian citizens want their freedom back. Welcome to the program. Where do you want to start?
Absolutely, Steve. First of all, I just came here this morning. As you know, the program is going to start in about an hour, but already the protesters are coming from all over the United States. Thousands of them are going to be here. These are supporters of Mrs. Mariam Rajavi and her 10-point platform for future of Iran. They've come from 40 different states. They have one call repeating the demand of Mrs. Rajavi, that is regime change by the people of Iran. There's no need for boots on the ground or appropriation of money. There are resistance units on the ground in Iran, those who are in the forefront of the protest inside the country. There have been several rounds of major uprisings since 2018 in Iran, in all 31 provinces, people calling for change. And this is happening just 2 weeks after a huge rally by tens of thousands in Brussels, the capital of Europe, supporting Mrs. Rajavi and her call for change. So as you can see, the momentum is building up, and it's very timely because right in front of me is the United Nations, and that's where the world leaders from 192 countries are going to be here, including the President of the United States, who will be speaking shortly.
Oh. The momentum you say is turning, and I think that you may be right. After the American airstrikes on the nuclear facilities at Iran, I believe that Iran might be at its weakest point, the regime that is, maybe at its weakest point since 1979. But every time there is a pushback, the regime returns with arrests and executions. We've had a number of your colleagues on here over the past week or two talking about these things. The arrests and the executions, they are a brutal regime. They kill their opponents whenever they can, don't they?
Absolutely. This regime is the most brutal you can find. Just in the past 1 week, they have executed 50 prisoners, including 2 women. Since last year that Pezeshkian took office as the regime's new president, 1,800 prisoners, including political prisoners and women, have been executed. 2 members of the MEK resistance units were executed just last month. Over a dozen of them are now on death row. But that shows the fear of the Iranian regime. Why would you go around and start killing people if you're not afraid of them? They want to create an atmosphere of fear and intimidation. This is a clear sign of desperation of the regime. And remember, this regime, as you said, has never been so weak. They have lost all of their clout in the region. Their biggest proxies, allies are gone. Assad is gone. Inside Iran, the protests are mounting. But international momentum is also very important. The snapback of sanctions was just reactivated here at the United Nations Security Council. In 3 days, they will go into effect on 27th of September, actually in 4 days. All of those sanctions will come back thanks to the revelations made by the main Iranian opposition movement, the NCRI, that exposed a major nuclear sites of Iran, that got the IAEA, that's the UN nuclear watchdog, involved in the inspections, and that led to those sanctions. That's why I think it's so important for the leaders to know this.
So, Alireza, what you're saying, Alireza, what you're telling me here is the Iranian regime in Tehran is undeterred, having been hit by the American military strike. They continue to push forward for nuclear weapons, but there's no path forward there. It's not going to be allowed. And the Chinese and the Russians can say as they want, but they don't want the Iranian regime armed with nuclear weapons either, do they?
No one wants a nuclear-armed regime. They're already the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. But the key point that the rally is actually relaying is that there is an alternative. You don't have to look at Iran through the prism of the mullahs. There is an alternative to the mullahs, a nationwide alternative that has already paid a huge price by sacrificing their lives, by standing and fighting the ayatollahs. This alternative is actually led by a woman, Mrs. Mariam Rajavi. She's the most threat to the ayatollahs because the regime is so misogynist, and you have women in the leadership of the movement. It's not a coincidence that you saw women involved in the forefront of those protests in Iran. That's why it's so important for the world leaders to, when they come here, to understand when we talk about Iran, we should be talking about the people of Iran. 40 plus years of resistance against dictatorship and striving for democracy, for human rights, for political pluralism. Steve, just think about an Iran that is, pursuing peace in the region, democracy in the country, separation of religion and state, and non-nuclear Iran, non-belligerent policies. What a difference that will make, not just for the people of Iran, but also for the whole region and the whole world.
Absolutely.
That's what the message is here today.
Yeah, it's a good message. Alarisa, greatly appreciate you being here as you get set for 2 days. You're going to be out there, the next 2 days during the UN General Assembly. Very important. Donald Trump is in New York, as you know, so you have the whole world as your audience. I wish you well, because we want the Iranian people to breathe free again. For the first time since 1979, I wish you well. We'll talk again about your impact, and hopefully we're going to move this needle. Alarisa, greatly appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Steve. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
There you have it. Look, and a beautiful sunny day there for Alarisa Jefferzadeh. The NCRI, battling for freedom for the Iranian people. It's a noble effort. I'll be back after this. All right, the investigation into Tyler Robinson continues. I'm going to share something with you here. Quote making its rounds on social media. If I attributed to Tyler Robinson, if I reveal everything, they won't just come after me. They'll go after my family and anyone connected to me, even if they're innocent. And according to Grok, which I go to, closely aligns with statements attributed to Robinson during police interviews. It appears to stem from his expressions of fear about retaliation from an unspecified group. Is there truth to it? There is evidence supporting the attribution and the context of the statement, though the exact wording may be a paraphrase used in media summaries. Here's a breakdown based on available reports. Primary attribution: a September 21, 2025 article on The Archivist, a news aggregation site, titled "Tyler Robinson Stuns Investigators. If I tell the truth, my family will be targeted." So we'll see what... is it officially corroborated? That's what I need to ask. And we'll see what they say. Is not officially corroborated in any sense of being directly confirmed by primary law enforcement. They say it comes from leaks and so forth. Lack of official confirmation. Not the FBI, Utah County Sheriff's Office, or other primary authorities, Governor Cox's office, to release any official statements or transcripts confirming the exact quote. So, when there's a void, when there's a vacuum, that will be filled. That will be filled by theories and ideas. So, did Tyler Robinson act alone? I don't know. But we'll stay with it. It seems pretty unusual that so many social media accounts had what looked like premonition of this going to happen and celebrated immediately thereafter. Coincidental? Don't like it. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. And remember, my friends, going forward, only you can save America.